Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I am hiding outside. This is our backyard. Mainly because I've got friends still that are visiting us from Oklahoma. We've got people sleeping. I've got two watching Creed. And this is the most quiet place to talk to you. So, as you're tuning in, where are you tuning in from? My name is Stephanie. Welcome to the Keto Mom page. I do have morning face. You could say workout face, just non-showered face. But we're going through this book every single day. So as you're tuning in, I hope that you're catching some of the lives or the replays about this book. And the other day I said, oh my goodness, this chapter is incredible. And I think it was chapter 12 or 13. And now the chapter we're going through today is incredible. And it's going to help you put a good section of the beginning together if you take action. So, where you're tuning in from, if I'm really quiet, you can hear the birds over the lake. I'm not going to be quiet, but this is our lake. So, if you can see it, we've actually got a friend fishing out. He loves to fish. So, anyways, it's a pretty peaceful morning. I'd love to know how your morning's going. I'm going to dive right in. So, for those of you who are brand new, oh shoot, I lost my page. We're going through a chapter a day, and I'm just going to keep going through books forever and ever and ever. I'll tell you why, a couple reasons. I think reading is powerful. It gets your mindset right. Reading helps you start your morning off, right? Whether you're listening to a book or you're reading or you're listening to a podcast, my hope is that you get up and you own your morning. And as you're fueling your mind right, the point is to make the best decision possible throughout your entire day. So we read The Miracle Morning earlier this month. If you've not read it, you need to read it. It's amazing. And now we're going through Atomic Habits by James Clear. We are on chapter 16. So I want you to hear, this is an incredible chapter. So I'm curious, are you reading the book with me or are you just listening? Either one is fine. Excuse me. And good grief. I need some water. Okay, I'm done. Good. This is real life, people. I do not get dressed up for you. The chapter is called How Do You Stick with Good Habits Every Day? This is amazing. And if you take action, it will help. Now, something we do in our business and something that we coach on, and I can coach you on the same thing. We talk about learning, doing, and teaching. You learn something, you do it, and then as soon as you can teach somebody else, whether you share it with a friend or a family member or a child or a coworker, as soon as you can teach somebody, you get it in you, right? Learn, do, teach. Learn, do, teach. It's super powerful. And so my encouragement to you is start sharing what you're learning with people because you're going to remember it and you're going to retain it and then you're going to keep doing it. This is powerful. So of course, the book always starts with a story or some science or whatever you are. It's very story driven, very science driven. Here's the book we're going through. I would love to read all of it to you, but basically he said this. He talks about how he talks about a 23, I'll give you the basic understanding, a 23-year-old stockbroker. And he shares a story of how all he did every single day was his goal was to make so many calls, right? So it's a businessman. He wanted to make so many calls. So every time he made a phone call, he put a paper clip in a jar. He would start with 120 paper clips in one jar, and he kept dialing until they were moved to another jar. So all he did is he says, here's my standard, and I'm not going to stop until they're done. And I can visibly see them in the other jar. And all through these last few chapters, he talks about how we're making habits. He talks about the four things. He says, you need to have a habit be attractive. Your habits need to be satisfying. Your habits need to be obvious. And your habits need to be, there was one more. You needed to, maybe it was on, I know there was four, but I don't know where the other one went. Whatever. I'm rambling, but here we go. I'm going to dive into it because it's really good. Making progress is satisfying, and visually measuring it, like moving paper clips from one thing to another thing, provides clear evidence that you are making progress. The point of keeping a habit and a system in place is you can visibly see it, right? You can see that you're making progress. You might think that the scale is the progress. It's not, because you might go for weeks without the scale moving. And so in here, he actually talks about different measurements of success. I talk about it on here all the time, but you might need to go, you know what? He goes, and he talks about how the very basic, he talks about habit trackers. We're going to talk about habit trackers. He says the very basic habit tracker that most people use is a calendar. Oh, I did it. I checked the calendar. Oh, today I meditated and I read my book. I check it off my calendar. I want to work out 5 days a week. When I do it, I check it off my calendar. That's the very basic understanding of a habit tracker. If you can keep yourself and see, oh, I did it today. It's satisfying. It's attractive. You feel accomplished, right? It's a tracker. And it's a very clear, obvious one, because if you don't check off that box, guess what happens? You didn't do it. You might feel like a failure, but you didn't do it, right? And so he says, countless people have tracked their habits, but perhaps the most famous was Benjamin Franklin. He said, beginning at the age of 20, Franklin carried around a small little booklet everywhere he went, and he tracked 13 personal virtues. He says the list included like losing no time, always being employed by something useful, avoiding hard conversations. At the end of the day, he would open up the booklet and he would record his progress. And he did that every single day, no matter what. Are you recording your progress? Can you visibly see if you're doing something or not doing something? If you work out, if you want to eat healthy, right? If you want to make the better decision, if you pack your lunch, whatever it is, a good habit tracker will visibly say, I did it, or shoot, I didn't do it. Here's a phrase that he says you should put. This is something you can write down. Put it on your refrigerator. I would say put it on your refrigerator. He says, write down, never break the chain. He's not focused on how good or bad the particular, so he talks about Jerry Seinfeld, and he talks about him writing jokes. And Jerry Seinfeld had a phrase. He says, I never break the chain. I do something no matter what. Even if it's bad. He says, so every single day, he said, I'm never going to break the chain of writing a joke every single day. The measurement wasn't, is it a good joke? It wasn't, if it was inspiring. The simple concept was he was going to show up every single day, no matter what. And then he goes into just, don't break the chain is a powerful mantra. Don't break the chain of sales calling, building your business, writing one page of your book. Don't break the chain of working out, and you'll get fitter faster. Don't break the chain of creating every day, and you will end up with an impeccable portfolio. Habit tracking is powerful because it leverages multiple laws of the behavioral change. It leverages being obvious. It leverages being satisfying. It leverages keeping it simple. And so that's what he talks about in the entire book. Let's break down each one. So then he talks about habit tracking is obvious. You can visibly see it. He talks about habit tracking also keeps you honest. How many times have you been like, oh yeah, I ate healthy. Or yeah, it's not a big deal. I track all of my food, but that was just a little bite. I'm going to give you an example. One of my friends told me about one of her friends. They were both doing the diet together, right? And she was tracking everything that she ate. Her other friend was like, I don't understand why you're having such success. I'm doing the same thing you're doing. And so they stayed together for a week, and my number one friend tracked everything she ate. Her friend did the same thing, except for all the little mini things in between. So they were eating something, and she'd be like, oh, go track your food. And she's like, that's not a big deal. It was only a bite, when it was like 3 or 4 bites. And so my friend was like, all right, I see what's happening here, right? Next meal comes around. She tracks her food. Her friend was like, I didn't really eat it. I think I had like a bite. And my friend that was tracking everything, if you're following, was like, you're eating throughout your tracking like she was tracking her obvious meals, but her little snacks she wasn't counting. And at the end of the week, she's like, you do know why you're not having success, right? Because you're lying to yourself. You're not making it obvious. You don't want to see the food you're tracking because you don't want to admit that you're snacking in between all those meals. You have to make it obvious. And a habit tracker does that for you, right? It talks about making it attractive. When you see little wins every day, that's attractive, right? That makes you want to go after it. If you're moving bobby pins from cup to cup, or you're crossing off the X on the calendar, or whatever it is that you have to do, you're going to visibly see, are you doing it or not doing it? It's satisfying. It makes you feel rewarded at the end of the day. Like, I did it. Is this making sense? Do any of you do some sort of habit tracker? And if you don't, my challenge to you is the habits that you're going after, working out, drinking more water, eating healthy, reading every day, how can you track that? Do you need to cross it off? Do you need to move something to something? Do you need to take things out so the cup is empty at the end of the day? What do you need to do to help you visibly see it? Because that's going to shift if you're not doing it and you're not seeing it and you're like, oh, I think I'm doing it, but then all of a sudden you're not. It's going to show you like you're maybe lying to yourself. All right. So he says so he gives a lot more examples. How to recover quickly when a habit breaks down. This is key. This is incredible. No matter how consistent you are with your habits, it is inevitable that there's going to be an interruption in your pattern, right? There's no perfection. We love to say, don't mess up good for perfect. There is no perfect. You will have a day. You will have a day where you might sleep in, or a kid is sick, or you are sick, or the day didn't go your way. Maybe somebody brought you over dinner and you were so hungry and you just ate it and it wasn't in line with your goals. You're going to have those days, but here's the kicker. Whenever this happens, I try to remind myself of a simple rule. Never miss twice. Never miss twice. So just like Jerry Seinfeld said, the phrase, let me go back real quick. Never break the chain. He does it no matter what. And I think I skipped this part, but he says, if you work out every day and you don't ever want to break the chain, even if you do 10 sit-ups or you just in your bedroom before you run off to work, 5 squats, 5 push-ups, 5 sit-ups, remember recreating your identity. It's not I worked out, it's I am an athlete or I work out every day. It's who you are. Even if you don't break the chain and you do it like this much, you're still creating the momentum and the habit of like, I did the 10 push-ups, right? Maybe you usually spend an hour in the gym, but I still did something. It's not breaking the chain, right? And if the chain gets severed, if the consistency of what you were doing breaks, you have a cheat day, whatever the case may be, you forgot to read, you didn't check in, never do it twice. This is really powerful. He says the first mistake is never one that ruins you. Never. The first donut, the first piece of pizza, the skipping the workout, that's not what ruins you. And I talk about this a lot. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follow. Missing one is an accident. This is huge. Missing one is an accident. Missing 2 is starting to create a new one is an accident. 2, 3, 4, 5 is creating a bad habit. Man, that is so good. So good. We talk about like, I'll say a cheat day, right? I'll tell people and we come on here and I talk about like, if you have a cheat day, you have to get back on track because what happens? One cheat day turns into the whole weekend and then the week and then the month and then the bad habit is created and it's a year. Is this making sense? Like, this is so good. Make it visible so you don't break the chain. And if you do, he says, you got to get right back on track. The first rule of compounding is never interrupt. It's oh, that's not what I was going to say. Hold on. I skipped a whole sentence. All right. The problem is not slipping up. The problem is thinking that if you can't do something perfect, then you shouldn't do it at all. This is not about perfection. And if you fall off the wagon, get back on, right? Don't make the continuous over and over bad habit because then you're going to have to try extra hard to get back on. He talks about that. All right. The last thing he talks about was when knowing you're tracking a bad habit. Like you can track bad habits. And so he says, this pitfall is evident in lots of areas of your life. We focus on working longer hours of getting meaningful work done instead of getting meaningful work done. This isn't like I have to work longer now. No, you need to be strict with your time, right? He says this isn't about working long hours instead of getting meaningful work done. We care more about getting 10,000 reps in sometimes than being healthy. He says we teach for standardized tests instead of emphasizing learning of the curiosity and critical thinking. In short, we optimize for what we measure. When we choose the wrong measurement, we get wrong behaviors, right? So I'm curious, what are you tracking? And if you're not tracking something, what are you going after? It's a new month. It's July 1st. It's my sister's birthday. I should probably call her. If you need a reason to start, it's today. It's July 1st, right? So what do you want to go after? I want you to write it below. What is it? Do you want, you guys, this is the first day I started the Keto Mom page. I'm going to have to celebrate. Okay, make sure you tune in later today. I'm going to give some prizes away. I don't know what it is. It's going to be great. I'm pretty sure I started Keto Mom on July 1st, 2015. Okay, sorry, totally derailment. Here's the deal. Why is it? Well, then he talks about celebrating non-scale victories because he goes into like fat loss. We talk about that all the time on here, right? Like you need to be able to measure success in lots of different ways. And right now you could be moving paper clips, right? You could be moving bobby pins. You could be taking rubber bands off and putting them in a different cup, checking off the boxes on your calendar, whatever it is, make it visible. So in summary, so excited. One of the most satisfying feelings is a feeling of making progress. A habit tracker, good morning. A habit tracker is a simple way to measure whether you did a habit, like an X on a calendar. Habit trackers are visual forms of measurement that can make your habit satisfying. Don't break the chain. Try to keep your habit streak going. And if you don't, then guess what? We don't mess up good for perfect. The first one is an accident. The second one is on purpose. Never miss twice. If you miss a day, get back on track. Just because you can measure something doesn't mean it's the right thing to measure. All right. This is the book. It's incredible. That was kind of long, a lot of rambling. I'm so sorry. But today is the Keto Mom 6-year anniversary. We should probably celebrate. You want to say good morning? Here's Annie. Good morning. All right, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to figure out something fun to do on the page, and I'm going to come back on later. So have an incredible morning. Go read your book. If not, do something for yourself, right? I hope you guys have a great day. Always reach out with questions, and we'll talk to you soon.